Back in the 70s and 80s, I spent several years as an AM and FM radio disc jockey. I remember carefully listing the names of every song we aired in keeping with regulations. It seems for the disc jockeys who provided entertainment at weddings and parties across the country, the Copyright Act was not as carefully enforced until Wilf Roch provided a huge wake-up call. We're welcoming Wilf from London, Ontario. Wilf, it was January 15th, 1989, the day the music died.
1986.
86?
1986.
Sorry.
January
Right.
the 15th, 1986 is when I had a call from 6 RCMP officers to my office with search warrants for my office and for my home. Now, prior to this, I must mention that a year before this ever happened, my wife and I had a discussion. I had a disc jockey business. I had operated for 13 or 14 years. And as she
Employed about 40 people.
About 40 people.
Big business.
And she was a Christian a lot longer before I was. She gave her life to the Lord when she was 17. And when we moved to Thunder Bay, she started to attend a church that was evangelical and started going to Bible college, Bible studies, and started to realize that I really wasn't a Christian. I didn't know anything about it. So she started to pray for me. She prayed for about 13 years that I would come to know the truth. Now, many times through that time, I'm sure that God tapped me on the shoulder. I went to church periodically, many times, just for my family, not for me. I really didn't want to associate with any of the people at that time because I was doing things in my disc jockey business that, wasn't really great. And so
you didn't think they'd be pleased with your lifestyle?
My lifestyle wasn't the greatest. And I was a very arrogant person at the time and self-righteous and many of the bad attributes. Anyway, so she prayed for me. Well, the big tap on my shoulder came when the 6 RCMP officers entered my office doors.
Unannounced. You didn't know they were coming.
6 men dressed in nice suits, very polite, presented their badge, introduced themselves, and said they had search warrants for my office and for my home. I immediately phoned my lawyer to find out what to do, and he suggested that I just cooperate. They spent 6 hours with me. One guarded me. Every move I went, he came with me. And it was very intense. They took what they wanted, then they proceeded to go to my home.
Did you have any idea why they were there?
Not really. Prior to this, we had launched an investigation. We had heard in the grapevine that there was going to be a new licensing organization out of Toronto, and so I had instructed my lawyers to find out what really was going on. And we tracked it down after about 3 days of investigation. And sure enough, we sent off a letter to them saying if and when they are the licensing arm of the record industry, my company wanted to be on board.
So you had taken steps to do the right thing.
Right. And unknown to us, there was already something in the wind that was going on, and it resulted in 6 RCMP officers at my door. Trauma. Listen, I'll tell you, if you want to get trauma in your life, have these people come into your life. It kind of scares you. Anyway, they did search my home. They spent about 4 or 5 minutes. They took 3 audio cassette tapes out of my son's bedroom of children's music and left. And the last thing they had said to me was, if you continue on business, you most likely get further charges. So I was standing at the front of my house wondering, well, where do I go from here? I had no idea.
So that was the end of your business,
that day,
your livelihood?
One instant, it was gone.
Now,
my
you
whole
said
company.
You told us your wife had been praying. You left out a very interesting thing to be noted here. She had really encouraged you to get out of this business.
She really wanted me to get out of it because she felt that it wasn't glorifying to God.
And what was your response to that, Wilf?
My response to that was that, the business provided our 5-bedroom home, a swimming pool, We had the house built to our specifications. She had an open checkbook. She could do what she wanted to do. She had a brand new vehicle. Our lifestyle looked really good. And as we got into this discussion, and as I was going out the door and slamming the door behind me, I said, for that matter, if God doesn't like what I'm doing, he'll take it away. Well, 1 year later, that's exactly what happened.
1 year later.
1 year later, God came into my life and caused some things to happen for me to pay attention.
Did you see this as God's hand when it was happening?
For the first 3 or 4 days, I was in a kind of a state of shock. And I still continued on going to my office, and I was down, like I had to cancel all our bookings and things like that. And it wasn't until Friday, that following Friday, late in the evening, I sat down and I was all by myself in front of the fireplace, and I started to think about what was happening, and I realized that my life was in a tailspin. It was out of control. I had no control. I was a control man. I controlled my life, I thought. Well, God took all the control out of my life. I didn't know where it was going to go. And I had some pretty bad thoughts at that moment. And
suicidal thoughts.
Suicidal. I was a failure I thought in my family's eyes, my friends, the business people I associated with. I thought, well, what are they going to think? Not even thinking of the church family, because I really didn't belong to the church family at that moment. Well,
Is this where Christian TV came in?
Well, I went to bed, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and I don't know if anyone's ever felt this, but I was perspiring. I was just besides myself. And my habit, whenever I had worries, I would put on the TV and maybe turn a channel to a good Western. I really enjoyed Westerns. And I thought, well, that's what I'll do, is I'll turn the channel TV on, and it happened to turn on at a Christian broadcast. And before this ever happened, I would have turned that channel really quick. But something caught my eye. It was the title. It said, do you have excess baggage in your life? And it went on to explain the excess baggage as anger, worry, resentfulness, and fear, and all these things. And I lay on the carpet floor and listened to this program for a good half hour. And I don't recall if I ever made a response. I'm sure there was an altar call. But, I went to bed and I slept soundly. And the next morning, I had this sense that there was a big hand on my back. And I went to my wife, I said, I don't understand what's going on, but I sense that I need to talk to our pastor.